o'clock. So please agree to the got it. That little sign will not go away until you agree. It's nice to see everyone today. Happy lunchtime. And so thank you for joining us on this important topic. My name is Annette Polilka. I'm going to be your host today. I am part of the GRC, the Global Recycling Council. For the folks in the room who are not familiar with CRRA, because I think that we might have a few people who aren't, I'm just going to let you know a little bit about us in case you ever want to join. We're a fun group, as you can tell. We're the California Statewide Recycling Association. It's the oldest one and the largest nonprofit recycling association in the United States. So that's pretty cool. And we're dedicated to achieving environmental sustainability in and beyond California through zero waste strategies, including product stewardship, waste prevention, recycling, composting. And also this webinar is being co-hosted by the GRC, which I am part of, and also the PRRR. And I'm going to ask Nicole Kenny to speak for, to let us know a little bit about PRRR.
Sure, thank you, Annette. I'm Nicole Kenny. Hang on a minute, screen's a little funky. I'm on the technical council for PRR, which stands for Prevention, Repair, and Reuse. We really focus, a mission statement of our technical council is to promote waste prevention by reusing and repairing materials and focusing on zero waste in California and beyond. So our discussions really center around advocating for policy and programs that support that, as well as just stimulating discussion on different, the repair and reuse of many different materials. It's a pretty eclectic group. So we talk about everything from e-waste and composting to textiles. Textiles has been a big one for us. So thank you all for joining today.
Thanks, Nicole. And then just a little bit about GRC. We advocate for 3 broad policy statements: zero waste, end welfare for wasting, and jobs, forum, designs, and discards. So we partner with local, national, international, grassroots organizations to develop policies and programs to further these goals. So what I like to do when we get started is to ask a couple of questions from everyone in the audience so that we can become acquainted with each other, like who is in the room. You were probably familiar with a few faces, but maybe not. So let's start with what state you're from. And if you can just type that into the chat on the right-hand side, whether it's CAIL, Minnesota, Tennessee, Massachusetts. All right. Oh, there's Shauna. Hi, California. Awesome. Illinois, New York. Okay, Hawaii. Confusion. Greg, are you confused? Oregon. Awesome. Hawaii, Montana, California. More Hawaii. Oh, this is awesome. Ontario, Washington. Pennsylvania. Okay, this is really cool. Ohio, because I made the assumption that we were going to be preaching or like talking to, you know how sometimes it's like you're just talking to yourselves, because we have a really diverse audience. So I love that it is so national and international. I see Philippines in there. And Peter says, I just call this little corner of the galaxy my home. All right. The next question for everyone to participate is, who are you representing today? G for government, N for nonprofit, E for education, and B for business. We got county government, we got a lot of business. Excellent. We got a lot of nonprofits. We got some people who are doubled up, very common in our world. Excellent. Research, nonprofit. Excellent. Cool. And then maybe the last question might be, where are you in your career, or where are you in, like, not in your career, but maybe in terms of your knowledge, expertise, not just about recycling, but, reuse and repair. So maybe 1, 2, 3, 1 is, oh, I am just starting out and this sounds really interesting. 2 is, I've been in this for a while. And 3 is, why am I not presenting? All right, lots of 2s. All right. All right, David is a retired scientist and grassroots activist, so I would put you down as a 3. All right, all right, we're all over the place here too. I like that. So add some diversity, which is also really healthy for all of us. All right, so the way that we're gonna do today's webinar is we have 3 speakers. We have Nathan Proctor, Laura Anthony, and Casey Valencia. So each speaker is going to have about 15 minutes. Some of them have a deck to share with us. And then let's do Q&A at the end. You can add your questions, and maybe Nicole can help me keep track of what questions we need to come back to at the end. But you can add your questions, but then just know that at the end, we'll do a really robust Q&A conversation dialogue so that everyone can really participate. All right. So we'll start with, and what I'm going to do is, because I'm no longer going to be speaking, I'm going to change the view from everyone to speakers so that Nathan takes the main space on my screen. I'm going to put him to speaker mode. So Nathan Proctor leads the U.S. Public Interest Research Group Right to Repair campaign, U.S. PIRG. You're probably, I've always been more familiar with PIRG based on what state I've lived in at the time. It's a really great way for people to get their foot into the door with environmentalism. So he leads the Right to Repair campaign, working to pass legislation that will prevent companies from blocking consumers' ability to fix their own electronics. In 2009, while working with the network's digital team, he mobilized so many people to deliver online comments to then California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger in opposition to cuts to the state parks budget that they crashed the governor's email servers. Go, Nathan. Nathan lives in Arlington, Massachusetts with his wife and 2 children. All right, take it away.
It's a very old bio. I can't believe that one's still online. That was like a long time ago that I crashed the governor's email servers, but it's my story, so I get to tell it. I don't know what he was thinking. Shut down the state parks to save money. What the heck? Come on, Arnold, be smarter than that. I did see that. I think at least one person spelled California without the R when they typed it out, and that did remind me for a second of how Arnold used to pronounce California. Hey everybody, I'm Nathan Proctor. In addition to being a Zoom stand-up comedian, I'm an organizer and advocate for a world that works for people, and that increasingly means finding ways to challenge the consumption and how our economy has kind of been rigged to force us to do absurd and silly things to kind of keep up a meaningless level of consumption, which kind of these large companies have decided is necessary for their continued growth. And that brings me to Right to Repair. I did notice a couple of friends here with us today, so I just had to shout out. I can't see these beautiful people and not say hello, but Emily at Reuse Minnesota is amazing. And then Peter Mui, who just walked away, apparently, from his little screen. But Peter, you're the best. If people don't know Peter Mui at Fix-It Clinic, you should get to know Peter Mui at Fix-It Clinic, because Fix-It Clinic is the best, and Peter Mui is the best. You missed the whole thing of me shouting wonderful things about you, Peter. Yeah, and Peter and I had a conversation, and maybe I'll start with this. A couple of years ago at some event we were doing together, about the moonshot, about recognizing that if you just think about the technology that we have and what it could do, we could have toasters that last forever with 3D parts that you could print at the corner. You would never have to buy a new thing. You'd never have to junk a thing. But we just have to convince people that this kind of different future is possible, where instead of constantly replacing devices, we have things that last and we can depend on and we can rely on locally. We're not dependent on some, some global geopolitics working perfectly. Otherwise, we're going to not be able to fix our cars, or, this is the things that are happening right now in our world. So let me just share a little bit of my talk, and then let me start my timer just so that I don't go long. I'm already kind of taking, all right, it's 3:10. I'll take 10 minutes to do this part. So this is me. I'm Nathan Proctor. I'm not wearing the same shirt today that I'm wearing in my headshot, which is usually what ends up happening by accident for me. So I feel good about that. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what Right to Repair is trying to fix, what the policies we are advancing, and kind of what's been happening. And I want to start with the story of my friend Paul Roberts' beautiful KLH radio, which was sitting on his hall table when his irascible golden retriever grabbed the power cord, ripped it right out the back, and broke his beloved radio, which he would listen to the morning news on. And so he went to the Google machine, and he found this is like kind of where the power came in from the outside. He had the whole board schematic, the board diagram of what it was. He also found this handy flow chart wiring diagram and realized that, yeah, he had a quarter amp fuse that he'd blown, and he was able to find that spare part and replace it. On the same day, his daughter broke her Fitbit 4, this Google product, smartwatch, very fancy piece of technology. Instead of finding a wiring diagram in that manual, you find incredibly helpful information like how to fasten a clasp, because this is apparently the kind of information people need and deserve in 2022. And what broke was this tiny little plastic clip here, and you can see it kind of these little nubs, that it snaps in to form the clasp, but they broke. There's no spare parts for this. This is probably a negligible amount of money for Fitbit, but their solution is to replace the entire device. They don't offer any spare parts. There's no repair program. You want to fix it, we'll send you a new one if it's still under warranty. Otherwise, it's toast. And it's not just Fitbits. I want to tell the example of this camera because this is like what we're worried about in Right to Repair world. So Nikon, about 6 years ago, announced that they were going to no longer be providing any repair shops other than 21. At the time, there were 21 authorized Nikon repair centers. They were going to be shutting off every other camera shop with any access to parts, tools, or information necessary to fix these cameras. And if you look at what it's like underneath this D70 camera, you recognize that you're probably going to need some documentation and or some specific parts if you have some repairs that you want to do to this camera. It's not a super complex device, although it looks pretty complicated, but you will need some help. But they decided to shut down everybody's access except for 21 camera shops. There used to be camera shops in most cities in America, but they've pretty much all gone. And then 2 years ago, Nikon announced that it would actually cut off 100% of the repair shops. And the only way to get a Nikon camera repaired with anybody who has access to their parts and documentation is to mail it in to one of two warehouse style repair shops. So, I like to use this cartoon because I feel like this is the moonshot vision, right? It's like we used to make things that lasted, and then we had a local resilient infrastructure to keep things going that was beneficial to our neighbors. It built expertise, it created resilience and cost savings. And now we have this, everything gets thrown away. Electronic waste is the fastest growing part of the waste stream, and we're losing our repair infrastructure pretty quickly. So what are we trying to do about it? And I would say the main focus right now of Right to Repair is, I don't think the ultimate like solution to the problem, but is like the tip of the spear, which is manufacturers should not be allowed to offer exclusive access to only a couple places that are permitted to fix products. So what does that mean? It means that they need to provide access to the parts, tools, and information necessary to fix products to everybody who wants to fix them. Independent repair shops, fix-it clinics, and community repair events, as well as the consumer themselves. And so we've kind of come up with 3 categories of things we need: parts, tools, and documentation or information. The tools would be inclusive of the software tools. And then, the documentation would be included with the diagrams, including wiring diagrams. And then those should be available on fair and reasonable terms. So that became model legislation, and it kind of started because of what the people in the car industry have done to protect repair choice in the car industry. They actually filed a ballot measure which passed in Massachusetts in 2012 by a margin of 86-14, which is actually higher percentage of people in Massachusetts than own cars. So it shows you just how popular this policy is. The legislature also passed a bill, and then the independent auto parts and repair people entered into a kind of national agreement with the car makers in 2014. And that's been a national agreement which guarantees independent mechanics can access parts and manuals from manufacturers. And, we basically decided to run a similar state bill to what Massachusetts did everywhere and anywhere. And this is kind of driven by repair.org, PERG, and iFixit, as some of the leading national groups. And then we have a ton of local partners like Reuse Minnesota, great partners in Minnesota that help us, run these bills in these different states. We've had 41 different states file legislation. This is a map of 2021, where there were 27 states. They target different kinds of equipment. Some are everything with a microchip. Some are just ag equipment or medical equipment. And these are broad bipartisan efforts. And we've had some really exciting recent breakthroughs. So I'm really proud of the campaign in Colorado to get Right to Repair for wheelchairs, which was signed last Thursday by Governor Polis. We had a report actually out last week, which showed just what a tremendous problem it is when you are dependent on a piece of technology like a wheelchair for mobility, and only the manufacturer's authorized person can fix it. And those companies seem kind of disinterested from actually doing those repairs. And then on Friday, we had the first ever electronics Right to Repair bill pass through both chambers in New York. So that's a huge victory. So we are on the move with Right to Repair, guaranteeing your ability to get parts and tools to fix stuff. Nationally, the president last summer signed an executive order around competition, which included a number of Right to Repair steps. One of the things that did was put a lot of pressure on the Federal Trade Commission. This is me testifying in front of the Federal Trade Commission. 2019, they released this report, Nixing the Fix, which is a unanimous report from all 4 commissioners, which found that there's basically no evidence to support restricting repair. Manufacturers make all these claims. Oh, it would be dangerous, cybersecurity. All of their arguments were investigated and found to be basically based on nothing. And the commission has been working with us to support these repair restrictions. And then I think we expect some action to be taken against some of these companies for what they're doing as being basically in violation of law. And that's kind of where this policy statement gets in. I want to quickly also talk about the ways in which this work is starting to affect the brands, these big multinational tech companies. So shareholders and a group called As You Sow filed a shareholder resolution with Microsoft. They agreed to do a whole bunch of things to support repair and issued a report that was evaluating the environmental benefits of repair, which, by the way, are basically essential to meeting any of their environmental goals, according to their own report now. Apple, with a similar shareholder resolution, is now selling parts and tools. That program has been kind of mocked a little bit because they send you two bags full of two Pelican cases full of 80 pounds worth of tools to replace a 3-ounce screen, which is kind of silly, especially because you can buy a kit from iFixit which is like 6 ounces and does the same job. And probably is better and easier to use too, because they actually care about the experience of people trying to fix things. But it is like a huge reversal. Like Apple basically has been hostile to user repair for like since Wozniak left, and now that they're changing tune. I think it's just evidence that this is the idea that people should be able to fix things is kind of hitting home with people, and we're hopeful that even more progress can be made in the coming months. And that's my quick overview. And so we're going to hold till after all 3 presentations are for questions. Is that right, Annette?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that. Thank you, Nathan. Love those updates. Love those updates. All right. So next up, we have Laura Anthony. And Laura, if you start speaking, oh no, I'm speaking. I'm getting over COVID, so I'm not at 100%. So I apologize for that. It's like only one person can be in the speaker view. So Laura Anthony is at least I entertain myself. Laura Anthony is a second generation zero waste community organizer. In 2007, she helped start and that is now the current president of a local nonprofit organization called Zero Waste San Diego. She has hosted over a dozen conferences, workshops, and symposiums on the importance of adopting the zero waste approach. In 2016, Laura started the San Diego Fix-It Clinic, a chapter of the Fix-It Clinics established by Peter in Berkeley. She has hosted over 300 clinics throughout the county of San Diego and helped repair over 3,000 pounds of reusable items that would have otherwise gone to the landfill. Her main focus is to bring back the repair mentality to the communities by working with like-minded organizations.
So today we're just going to talk about how to establish Fix-It clinics in your community and what we're doing in San Diego. And I've got a couple of my coaches in here too, so I've got some nice audience. Okay. So we've all heard about Peter Mui. Peter Mui is our hero when it comes to the Fix-It Clinic, and he established his first Fix-It Clinic on December 1st, 2009. I just found out today, so that was great. And so he's been doing this for a while. And we thank you, Peter. The tagline for the Fix-It Clinic is that a do it together disassemblies, troubleshooting, and repair. Open it up and see if it works. Hopefully we'll fix it. And so our mentality is whatever you bring in, we'll try. Let's see if we can do it. So this is now being established all over the country and all over the world. And so we really thank Peter for that, starting that. Next one, perfect. So why repair? Well, there's this awesome poster on the side. It doesn't really show up on the PDF, but it's the Repair Manifesto. Kind of explains that we should try to open up everything that is broken and see if we can fix it. And everything has a possibility. And so the repair, not replace mentality is relatively new, and we're trying to, and it's getting popular as we go. But just a kind of a big picture, I am speaking on an environmental activist point of view versus just a technical person who knows how to repair, because I do not know how to repair. I know how to organize, and I'm really stupid with tools. So when people ask for screwdrivers, I say plus or minus. So that is my way of doing the tools. But this is a behavior change. It's for stopping people, just like if you're trying to get people to recycle, you're stopping people to think before they toss or before they buy. So this is a struggle in any of the atmosphere, and we're trying to bring back the repair businesses. And if you look in your community now, you can't find many. And so that is kind of if you have a toaster that's broken, it's almost impossible to go to a store to try to fix it. There are hardly any in the community now. And so there is a lot of education, and this is great for these webinars to do this grassroots kind of education. You can move forward. And this is why we need it to act. We are drowning in plastic. We are drowning in e-waste. They're taking it to third world countries to have them, to take them apart, to pan for the gold and the materials in it. And this is not the way to do this. And what I pride Americans for is to figure it out. And when we don't have something, we can figure it out within our country. And so that is where we need to get to now. And at the moment, all of our materials are planned to be obsolescent. So look at the big picture. So as an environmental consultant, we go into our cities and we do waste characterization studies, which is going into the landfill and kind of mapping out what's actually being tossed into our landfill now. And I have to move my face or I can't see what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is, if you look at the big picture, you'll see that reuse is what we're talking about. It's only 3% what's going into the landfill now. But if we pull it apart, and this is the city of San Diego, which I live in. And so right now, reuse is about 14,000 tons that's in the landfill. Textiles are 23, so that's a clothes and anything that has the fabric. And that's a total of 37,000 tons. So if you break down it even further, and that's what's going into the landfill, is 10% is perfect things that could be sold. 30% of it is simple repairs, 40% is refurbished and upcycling possibilities, and there's a 10% kind of discard. But if you scroll down just a little bit, Ruth, we're going to show the table below. This is the missed. Oh, it doesn't do it, does it? You might have to lower the size. Someday I'll fix my computer, I swear. Greg and Dodla is here. Maybe I'll bring it there. Maybe I'll bring it to Fix It Clinic. Okay, so the reuse. So we're looking at the tons, and from the quotes that I got from Mary Lou and Dan Knapp from the Urban Ore, it's about a price tag of $200 to $500 per ton. So this is a missed opportunity going to our landfill now of things that could potentially be repaired, fixed, or sold. And we're tossing about 2.6, and I'm on the low side, $3 million worth of missed opportunities in our landfill now. Okay, you can go next. So how do you start a Fix It Clinic, and when did we start it? We started in January in 2016 at the downtown library where I was a librarian, and was great. A lot of noise, which they kind of moved it along because a lot of noise. But we've done this a lot throughout the community. You can put these in neighborhood churches, some breweries, some community gardens. They're all completely volunteer run. It used to occur once a month until the pandemic hits. It's kind of hard to get them back started again, but we're trying. And we've established really great partners throughout the community. And that's the potential of this all. Next. And what we do. So this is kind of the exciting thing. We all like to celebrate our successes. So as a past librarian, I like the more information, the better. So I have kind of a database that is different from, I think Peter uses maybe, is to what is coming in, how you can fix it, what is the serial and all the numbers and all that stuff of the model. So I can then send it to my group, to my volunteers. They let me know if I need to follow up with my attendees on getting a part, because keep in mind, this is all free. So we want them also to take ownership of it, let them know where the parts are, purchase them, come, and we'll try to fix it together. We wait, because I'm an environmental consultant, weight is a big thing. So I do like to calculate diversion rates and zip codes. So we know who's coming where and how far they traveling to come to our events. We access, we diagnose, and when we celebrate successes. So we are kind of obnoxious in that way, or I am kind of obnoxious in that way, when we actually celebrate. And this is a Peter kind of thing. When we actually repair things, we ring a bell and hoot and holler. And what I say to them, I say, okay, see the person across the street, you need to ring this bell like your life depends on it, or you're calling them for dinner. So I want them to come over here and race to see what's going on. And so that's kind of how we vibe. Next. So pop-up sites. So in order to get a Fix It Clinic established in your community, you need to have electricity, you need to have tools, cover for the elements, because the sun and the wind are not our friends sometimes, a bit of marketing and a lot of patience. And here's an example of an event, one event. So keep in mind, this is not an audience based. This is not someone coming in and watching. And so you're not going to get large numbers because you have only a certain amount of time. You only have a certain amount of people helping you fix things, but we do get, it's task oriented. Every single person takes ownership of their product. They sit down with our coaches, and our coaches go over it by detail on how to fix it and make it comfortable for people to be able to open up the idea themselves. So here it is, example. I've got 23 people that actually pre-registered and 14 people walk in. About 60% repair rate, because not everything can be repaired. And you find a lot of maintenance issues and a lot of things that people have put in their closet. Like, how many people have actually a broken item in their closet that they've had for maybe years because they're like, someday I'll get this fixed. Well, that's exactly what's happening here. So we have 60% repaired, 32% not repaired, and 8% we send them along, say, go get this part, come back to the next one, and we'll put it together. So the wait for this one event on April 16th at the Carlsbad Library, we diverted 446 pounds from the landfill through repair or recycling. So if things aren't being able to, we can't repair them, we then work with either Goodwill or the Solana Center, and we drop off our e-waste there, and they can be recycled responsibly. So if you want to look at that even further for the cutie little facts, so the 446 pounds is equivalent to 8.8 trash bags that are going into the landfill. And then another thing, because gasoline's always rising, so it's always good to point that out, this is about 22 gallons of gas consumed. Now, our age group is typically over 50, because over 50 is remembers the times when we used to repair things. And so I like to keep that demographic just to show that this is an age thing. This is a generational thing. And we need to start bringing it back. But I am starting to get a lot of kids that are interested, 13, 14-year-olds that want to fix their toys or the remote control. So this is a really great potential for intergenerational training. And here's a video. This is what it looks like at our event.
Let me know if you can hear it. Can you hear it?
It's not even playing.
It's not playing?
Ooh.
Can you see it?
Okay, it's in another website. That's why you might have to lower this to get to that website.
Okay, let me stop
Sorry.
sharing for a minute and share the website. Oops, sorry. We got it. Here we
I'm
go.
just making it complicated, sorry, Ruth.
Can you see it now?
Yes,
All right, here we go. And can you hear it?
yes. So that was a fun event because we were at the Solana Center, and the Solana Center has a e-waste drop-off center. So a lot of the guys went in there to find little things like maybe a fan that was
Sorry.
a fan that wasn't working, and the clip is the little switch wasn't working. So they found another fan that was totally broken in the e-waste thing, took that apart, and then be able to replace it for the one. And there was a couple other things. Like they went in there, it was like hog heaven because they found some things that they all can take home and fix. And one example was the leaf charger. And everyone grabbed at that. It was just a fuse, a broken fuse. And one of the guys just bought a leaf, and he's like, I'm going to take this. And it was a lot of fun. You can go next. Okay. So we have about 300 attendees in 6 years, about a 50% repair rate, over 3,000 pounds diverted from the landfill, attendees from all over the county, great partners, and we're serving an underserved community. We do these in areas where there's lower income or people that are struggling with housing issues, and they come in and they're learning skills and they're getting their products back that they thought they'd never be able to see again. We'll go next. So future products, we're trying to move this forward. We have some of our coaches are making videos on how to do coffee grinder repair, thermal fuses changes. We're looking into this little hutch right here. If you pull down the awnings, it is a storage unit. This is up in Netherlands. So we're looking into, we're partnering with the San Diego Makers Guild to see if we can create this to make a pop-up, just hatch it up to your car and move it out. And we'll have our Wi-Fi, our generator and all that. And so we can do more pop-up clinics. People are looking for mentoring and apprenticeship programs. People want to learn how to do things. Everyone wants to kind of, instead of demonstrations, I like hands-on tactical training. I have, even though I'm a librarian in the background, I am dyslexic, so I learn things by doing. We're also trying to specialize other fix-it clinics like furniture repair, sewing circles with visual and invisible mending, and visible mending, and then anything bicycle maintenance. We're looking for other partners that come in that are specialized in these things, so we can, as a chain, as a link on it to make it better, and so it's a whole repair community. Next, and this is us in the media. It's going to be the same kind of thing.
We've all been there.
Okay, we're gonna stop share for a minute and go to the other one. Sorry. Here we go.
Your favorite device isn't working and is way too costly to repair.
10 News has been looking at the cost of living issues in our Making It in San Diego initiative.
10 News reporter Michael Chen checks out a program that will try to fix your broken item for free so you don't have to replace it.
For Gary Worth, the sounds from his computer never sounded so nuts.
Good to have audio again.
A few months ago, his $170 computer speakers fell silent. The culprit,
It would just get all staticky.
the end piece that plugs into the computer. Getting it repaired would have cost him between $80 and $120. So Worth tried to fix it himself and failed. Then in early September, he saw a notice
We're working on some of these machine things.
for a fix-it clinic organized by the nonprofit
technical.
Zero Waste San Diego.
Put it together and we'll see what happens.
For the last 4 years, the group has been offering free monthly clinics to help fix the broken. From mixers and barbecues to computers, even fruit humidifiers. Fix-It volunteer Michael Gleason joined the group after he retired.
When we fix somebody's lamp, we turn it on and the thing lights up, and then the owner face lights up. And for me, that's the reward.
The success rate
Ring the bell, the success bell. Yay.
is about 50%.
Fix it and keep it out of the landfill.
Small victories in our disposable society.
According to the latest numbers, the average San Diegan tosses out about 5.5 pounds of trash every day, including stuff that just isn't working.
One item that did not end up in the trash, Worth speakers.
They put a little piece of tape that separated the wires so that there would be no shortage.
A device repaired and money saved.
Great to be able to save a few bucks, especially in San Diego where the cost of living isn't great sometimes.
Michael Chen, 10 News.
We've all been there.
Oops, there we go. Awesome.
And I'm almost done. So this is kind of a couple examples that we do. We can do it anywhere, outside, inside. Let's see where we are.
Oops, can you see? Let me try again.
I should learn more technical words because when I'm on that, that doesn't sound very good.
Okay, try that. There you go.
Live and learn. Perfect. Okay. So the things that we need for coaches, these are all our great coaches at our event, electronic repairs, computer repair, bicycle maintenance, sewing skills, administration and marketing, willingness to learn from others and actually help the other people out. It's it's empowering, and it's a lot of fun. And I've had the same guys sit with me since 2016. If you want to go to the next one, and it's my closing one, but just basically my goofy way of advertising. I'll try to put the silly into everything. And so memes are my best friend. And so if you want to know anything about how to set up a Fix It clinic in your community, please let me know. If you want to establish one in San Diego, please let me know. We're willing to help in any which way. We're just trying to teach people how to fix things and own their products and get to zero waste. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I love that. And what a nice video too, and great media coverage.
And just to call, just a shout out for Greg Ferry and Dadla. They're both of my coaches the coaches that come to my events, and they're here in the audience today.
All right. Well, next up, and thank you for that presentation. Next up, we have Casey Valencia, is the executive director of the Missoula Urban Demonstration Project, MUD. MUD is a tool library, demonstration site, and skill sharing hub rolled into one. Since 1981, MUD has worked towards the vision of a world in which tools and skills are shared for the betterment of our community and planet. Casey Valencia grew up in Southwest Colorado, where she explored the mountains and desert of the Four Corners with her family. After college, Casey spent several years working as an AmeriCorps member, and then as an AmeriCorps program coordinator. She moved to Missoula to receive her master's degree in environmental studies with a focus on environmental education at the University of Montana, and is now leading the MUD team. Casey, come on up.
Right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, and so it's nice to see, I think, so many different ways that repair and reuse can happen. And so for my presentation, I'm going to focus kind of on our little nonprofit in Missoula, Montana, and just talk a little bit about how we help our community with all of their projects and everything they have going on. So you can go ahead and go to the next one. So our mission is to empower people to build a more sustainable community through tool sharing and hands-on learning. And so we do that through three main focus areas, which are our tool library, our workshop series, and our demonstration site. And as Annette mentioned in my bio, that MUD has been around for 40 years. And over that time, it's changed a lot to kind of keep meeting the different needs of our community and what sustainability means to our community over time. So in the past, that was a big focus on gardening and sharing knowledge on how to live more sustainably by living together in a community and sharing those resources with their neighbors. And now as time has moved on, we have really focused on becoming a resource sharing hub for our community. And these pictures here you can see you'll see a little bit of our site, and you can see somebody who is putting together a little free food pantry for our community at one of our workshops. So you can go to the next slide. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about our tool library, because this is our biggest program. It's our main focus right now. Our tool library has been around for over 30 years. It's one of the oldest tool libraries in the country. I know there are a lot of folks from California. There's one that started out in Berkeley that I think is one of the oldest ones, but ours has been around quite a while too. And they've really started to explode in the last few years. You're starting to see more and more tool libraries pop up around the country, which is really great. And our tool library works on a membership system. So people pay a small annual fee, as listed in this image, in order to have access to nearly 3,000 tools in our tool library. And in addition to that, they also get some other benefits to our other programs. And they also have the opportunity to talk to our very knowledgeable tool librarians about everything that they're working on and any of the tools that they want to try or projects that they're working on, to get a little bit of advice on how to make that happen. So if you go to the next slide, we'll kind of talk about all our wide variety of tools. So I think often when people hear tool library, they think like, oh, it's only going to be power tools or hammers or screwdrivers or something like that. But a tool can mean a whole lot of different things. And for us, we do have all those power tools, but we also have yard tools like lawnmowers and tillers. We have sewing machines and a lot of other tools that can help in the home. So we have things like food dehydrators, canning equipment, hot glue guns, just about anything that people could use. Other tool libraries around the country have also focused on having a stockpile of other items like camping gear and other kind of cooking and baking equipment to make this really accessible to people. And the thing with the tool library is, well, tools are expensive for one thing. So if you have a project and you're only going to use a tool one time, it really doesn't make sense to buy it. There's a lot of work to maintain tools, which is a big part of this repair effort. And if you can come and borrow a lawnmower and you don't have to repair it and maintain it yourself, it makes a lot more sense because we have skilled people on staff that can maintain these things and keep them in good order, which I'll talk about a little bit more later on. And also just the storage space. You know, a lot of our tool library members live in small apartments and they don't have room to store all of these things. So it really helps decrease waste in a lot of ways when you can come and borrow things rather than buying them and letting people share them across our community. And there's kind of a little tidbit of information that always goes around school library, and that's that.
Hey, is it just me or is Casey still a little
is only used for.
Hey, is it just me, Casey, or are other people having trouble hearing Casey?
I'm also getting some feedback.
Yeah. Hey, Casey, maybe go off video.
Throughout his entire lifetime. And when it gets shared at the library, that's going to expand a whole lot.
Oh, there you go. Okay, there we go. We'll keep going.
Did I get?
There we go. You were a little fuzzy there for a while. So if you stay off video, that'd probably be best.
Yeah. All right. Okay, thank you. Sorry. It's just sharing tools we found is a great way to reduce waste. It's a great way to promote access because the tools can be really costly. And it also gives people a lot of confidence in being able to tackle projects in their lives that maybe otherwise could be a big barrier. So anything from fixing up their house to planting a garden to fixing their car. Yeah, and definitely space. I see that comment. These help people a lot with different things they have going on in their lives. So we can go to the next slide. So a little bit about our demonstration site. So we moved to our current site about 10 years ago, and we are now very conveniently located right next to another nonprofit that's a building materials reuse store. So they get donated building materials, and then people can go there to pick up all their things for the project. They can come to us and get their tools and then go on their way to get things done. As we started developing our site, we wanted to make sure to reuse and have as much sustainably focused projects as we could. So our tools are all stored in shipping containers. Our structures are made out of reused lumber. We have different projects that people can come and visit to kind of get inspired or to learn some of, you know, the lessons that we learned when we implemented them before taking them on in their own lives. So reuse building materials. This is a picture of our solar panels that power our site. And if you go to the next page, the next slide, a few other projects that we have. So the picture with our pathway there, that is all from recycled glass that got crushed up and then placed over some plastic cups. They look like little circular cups in order to give the glass some structure. And it keeps our walkway permeable so the water can go through, but it's also a great way to reuse glass because that at this time, there was no glass recycling in the state of Montana. So there wasn't a lot of ways to get rid of glass. And so we decided to see if we could show off a creative way to use it. Our middle picture here is our bees. We just started a big kind of pollinator project where we have a couple beehives and we do a beekeeping series to support pollinators, as well as some different gardens and things at our site. And then the last picture here is a bike repair stand that is just accessible 24/7. People could stop by. We are just off of a commuter trail, so people could come over, work on their bike, pump up the tires, all those good things without needing to find a bike repair shop. So you can go to our next slide. And then our third program is our workshops. And so we do a variety of hands-on skill-focused workshops. So here you can see some different kind of woodworking ones with cutting boards, butchering, blacksmithing. We did a greenhouse building workshop where we built a greenhouse and then donated it to another nonprofit in our community. So this is all goes really nicely hand in hand with our tool library, that we have the opportunity to help people learn how to use these tools that can be really intimidating, or, you know, depending on your scope of your project, you might be needing a little more guidance. And this is a good chance to come in and learn new things. I think much like the Fix-It clinics, a lot of times we see these are skills that used to be really prevalent and are now kind of fading away. And so things like butchering and blacksmithing and beekeeping, we're trying to keep those alive and trying to teach more people how to do those things for themselves. And if you go to the next slide, this is something we've been really excited about the last few years, is we have started a women-led workshop series, and this is open to everybody, but the idea is that it's women-led to hopefully take away one more barrier for people who may otherwise feel unsure of coming in and using power tools. And it's just a really fabulous series. The first one we started with is carpentry. So people come in and they get to learn how to use a wide variety of tools, and then they get to work on their own projects that they have selected. And it's a 2-day workshop. We also have expanded our women-led workshop to include car repair. Our butchering one is women-led, and in the fall we're hoping to do a plumbing workshop. And they're just great. They sell out really quickly. People are just really interested in learning how to do these things in a low pressure, very supportive environment. So we love our women-led workshops. You can go to the next slide. We also do a variety of events, just like many nonprofits, to try to get people together talking about sustainability. We've hosted an Earth Day event for over 15 years where we bring in different nonprofits and presenters and things to talk about Earth Day. And this photo, that was all of our waste from the entire event, which is about a 4-hour event with food trucks and about 50 tablers and hundreds of people that came in, and we were able to keep it down to that amount of trash for the entire event, which was very exciting for our zero waste efforts. And we also do a llama manure sale every year, which is really fun and very exciting for people to be able to find a good source of fertilizer for their garden. So yeah, just a variety of things that we're always trying to get people to think about how they can reduce their impact on the planet and do things a little bit differently. So if you want to go to the next one. And I just wanted to do a quick highlight on a couple of our partners. I had mentioned earlier about kind of the tool maintenance, and that's a big perk, is that we can do a lot of the tool maintenance for people. So they're not trying to figure out how to fix things or just throwing them away when they're broken. And we have found that we can team up with people in a variety of ways in order to maintain our tools. So one resource that we found was going to our local high school and talking to the shop teacher, and he actually did a training for all of our staff to teach them how to do small engine repair. And as soon as we were able to do that, our lawnmower situation got way better. They became they just stay in great shape now because we have the skills to be able to do that on our own. We also have volunteers that come in and help us with different projects, especially some of our things like our tillers and other small engines can take some work every now and then because they get used heavily in the springtime. And it's great to have volunteers with that knowledge come in, but also help train our staff. And then we just have a couple of community partners that I wanted to highlight who are doing really great zero waste work. Soil Cycle is a bicycle powered compost collection nonprofit, and they also do a lot of reuse and kind of upcycling work on there. And so I wanted to highlight them. And then, as I mentioned, Home Resource is our neighbor and a longtime supporter. And they also host Fix-It clinics, much like were mentioned earlier. And I saw in your slideshow, Laura, that you mentioned tools. So we provide a lot of the tools for Home Resource to be able to do those monthly Fix-It clinics and help out in other ways when we can. And so I think the last one is just my info if people are interested in learning more about our tool library. And that's a good shot of seeing like our different shipping containers, reused materials, kind of all the things we have going on there. But you're welcome to contact me if you want to learn more. So thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Casey. I got excited. I'm like, I want to go. I want to go to the ladies' day, clinics and whatnot. All right, so I'm going to change my view to gallery so I can see everyone's wonderful faces. And now we have some healthy time for questions. So I know that Heather had her hand up. Heather, you have been very patient. Here's your chance. All right, just kidding. Maybe Heather will come back. And there were questions about the—
Wait, I'm sorry. I was trying to lower my hand so I could then ask my question.
Okay.
Hey, thank you for all the wonderful presentations. So Nathan, I wonder if, and by the way, major congratulations on New York. I wonder if you can kind of give us an idea of what you see next for other states to do, because New York has now done the big thing. Sorry about my delay there.
Hi, Heather, and obviously hello to you. Heather has been an awesome partner for our work on Right to Repair in the great Apple state, taking on Apple of Washington. We expect that, yeah, we'll see. I think we're going to have to pass a couple different states before we drag some of these big manufacturers to the table to negotiate a national agreement. I don't think one state's going to be enough. So, and then the other thing is that New York narrowed really significantly in the very final stretches. It actually doesn't include home appliances. So I do think that we're hoping to pass a couple of other bills in a couple other states that will, kind of continue to bring different groups to the table so we can hopefully, kind of forge some kind of baseline understanding for these companies. But there's a couple different ways that we could see the end game happening. But to me, no matter what that end game is, more states passing bills would definitely hasten the progress that we want to see.
So presumably tougher bills going the next step.
Yeah, I would say, pride of ownership and slightly different, make it annoying for these compliance officers at these big companies so that they stop, funding shenanigans to stop us.
Well, and the irony with that is that Lisa Jackson, who used to be the administrator for the EPA, is with Apple. So
I do not find that ironic at all. That is par for the course, in case you didn't know. But
all right, thank you. Next, Stefan.
Hey, good afternoon. My company, Tech Tailor, we upcycle used materials, everything from banners, billboards, decommissioned fire hose from our forest fires, fabrics, leather scrap, and so on. We just recently, a few weeks ago, held a Fix-It clinic and upcycle market here at our facility in Santa Rosa, organized together with Zero Waste Sonoma, Green Links, Green Mary, and we had a great response. It was our first event, had about 120, 130 people there. And so we're planning to do another one in July during the Zero Waste Week here in Sonoma County. I think the demand is great. The challenge is, it's a skill to repair stuff, and at the moment it's all sort of on a voluntary basis. And I think that's not a sustainable path if we really want to grow the the repair market, we need to be able to pay the folks who have that skill to come out and do this stuff. So I think, and we've seen this in our industry, there's a lot of money set aside for recycling from CalRecycle and so on. There's hardly, I think a couple of years ago, we had the first grant for upcycling, which didn't include anything for textile and apparel, which we have been fighting for a long time. So I think there's an area where we need to push on the policy level and demand more funding for such things as repair clinics. And I think it needs to be, we need to find a space somewhere where this can be sort of a permanent installation where you have, oftentimes retired folks who want to, make a little money on the side and have the skills and like the interaction with people, where we have something that's permanently there, where people can go and drop off their stuff. And because we had way more interest and stuff we could handle in the 3-4 hours we were offering our repairs. So I think there's a lot that needs to be written up and in request for funding from the CalRecycles and the likes to help us make something like this a more permanent and professional industry.
Agreed. Thank you. Shauna is next.
Okay, great. I wrote down a few questions, but I'll choose one. And I guess they're not really questions as much as sort of food for thought and thoughts I've had for a while that I'd love to hear others thinking about. So I've noticed, especially with textile and clothing reuse, there's a lot more going on in terms of repair and refurbishment and then resale. In other words, the garment doesn't go back to the original owner. In most cases, in cases like Trove, for example, which is like multi-gazillion dollar company now. So it's I think we tend to think very, very circularly, like in a literal way, like that loop is closed from that consumer back to the same consumer, or as I prefer, citizen, rather than the item, like I say, is repaired or refurbished in some way and then sort of comes off that loop a little bit, goes to another consumer. So it seems like there are going to be people who want the new thing. They're persuaded by the argument that getting a new thing is cheaper or whatever. And so they're going to do it. But maybe if there is more opportunity for them to turn in their old products, some version of not extended producer responsibility, but the lesser unmandated one, I always forget, product stewardship. Something like that, where there's more opportunity for the product to find a new owner, and the people who are going to buy the new stuff can still buy the new stuff, and we don't have to just rely on kind of a green consumer base or audience. So again, not really a question, but just something I've wondered, because it doesn't seem to happen as much with electronics, appliances, etc. Or maybe I'm wrong, because I'm just more exposed to the textiles and clothing side of things.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to add to that in the chat, or also reach out to Shauna directly to continue that textile conversation, because also Nicole, who was introduced earlier, is we have experts in that. So definitely worth the continuous conversation around that. So I'm going to go to some hands that are raised. Jasmine.
Hi, just a question that Stefan alluded to earlier, with most of the Fix-Its right now and these workshops being volunteer driven. I'm curious, Nathan, if you have thoughts on how, the right to repair might change local economies and what that potentially could look like. Also, if you have time, what do you foresee happening with right to repair in California?
Essentially 1 second.
Knowing that the bill is, I don't know, it seems like some weird legislative place.
Legislative death. It was put on suspense, which means that it's dead. Yeah, it's interesting. Like on some level, the system that we're supporting with our current technology spending is like, okay, let's destroy the world for cheap temporary gadgets. So no matter what economy we put together, we'd be really hard pressed to find something worse than what the mining companies are doing to Mongolia and the Democratic Republic of the Congo to just manufacture and ship stuff all over the world. Like whatever we come up with, it'll be better than that. And then it is a much more locally, it'll circulate the money much more locally if we repair and reuse things. But I would also caution us to just say like, okay, if there's something that's the right thing to do and it's like not great for economic growth, we should just agree that that doesn't matter as much as like a livable planet for our children and grandchildren, right? Like the economy is a system to help us live our lives. We are not fodder for the economy, fuel for it, like just burn our bodies and our lives and our planet to make sure it's working well. So in some point, like I have a paradigm problem with like, oh, but what will it mean to the economy? It's like, whatever the economy is, it should just work for us and for our future as a primary point. Other than that, I'm not interested in helping it along in any way. So that's a little bit of, my little philosophy there. I apologize. I was pretty preachy. But yeah, I do think, Peter could probably speak to this a little bit if he has a chance to ask a question, but like, maybe like, oh, like a local repair shop are they competing with the Fix-It Clinic? No, like none of the stuff that people are bringing to the Fix-It Clinic are stuff that they would pay to fix. They love the things. They're jackets, they're a toaster, which is, you could buy another one at Walmart for $5, but they want that toaster. Their grandmother made toast with that toaster. They want that toaster. And I think our relationship with stuff is a lot more than, the economics maybe makes sense. And I generally think overall, it's not taking away from those repair business. And in fact, the more that we can have people think, yeah, something breaks, we fix it. That'll help those local repair shops.
I also think that you bring them involved, get them involved, get these repair shops involved in the Fix-It clinics. And what I go to them, I say, can you dedicate 3 hours out of the month to come and market your business? Basically help your client, your community to fix the items and give them your business card. I don't care. And let them know, come the next day to my shop and I can do more. But have them be part of this program and own it, and they will find more clients this way. This is their marketing of their business.
Participating in the local activities. And we have some comments here around, and thanks Laura for adding around needing a waiver, and then also in terms of an accident, and then Casey added about having comprehensive insurance, that's necessary, and some folks have had issues with that, but they have not. So that is good. I'm trying to monitor both sides of all of this. And also, yeah, I was curious about that too, around, finding the Fix-It coaches, and with the age participation, so maybe there's an opportunity around having, maybe if other people knew about it, that they'd be able to participate, or be able to give their feedback. And Shauna's asking, aren't volunteers aging out? How about promoting apprenticeships on a larger scale? Yeah.
What I find is that a lot of the volunteers I grabbed were from print. So I sent an ad in our Union Tribune, and the people that read the print, so that is a different generation than some others, are coming to be part of it. And the greatest one is we did an article. I talked to, at the Earth Day, I talked about over 200 people, and a lot of them were wives. And they're like, can you get him out of the house? He's repairing all the stuff in my house. I'm like, how long do you need him out? I can keep him for a good 4 hours. Is that okay? And he goes, please. So it may even doing a call. Hey, wives out there, do you need your husbands to come and fix other things than not your refrigerator for the 5th time? So it's a silly, clever way of getting people to notice.
Yeah, and also comments around vocational education training programs and exiting criminal justice system as well. Those are all really great. Tech dump and homeboy recycling. Okay, so here we go. And also for Stefan's question earlier, if anyone wanted to add resources that you're familiar with, whether it's from CRA or local governments for repair, reuse, etc. Some of that funding is out there. You just have to know when it's going to be advertised, follow all the rules. As someone who used to work in government, it's like you actually have to follow all of the directions. Like if you don't want to follow directions, you probably won't get the grant, right? So something to be aware of. So if you wanted to share that into the chat so everyone has those resources. Let's go up to Claire Ryan in Illinois.
Great, thank you. My question was also about the right to repair legislation. I was wondering if there's typically an element to those bills that actually compels the manufacturers to make spare parts, because I remember from the beginning, and it kind of stuck with me, that there was that image of the Fitbit wristband where it was like a tiny little plastic part that snapped, and it sounded less like they had restricted the parts to just them and you have to pay them a ton of money to fix it, rather that they just didn't bother making it to begin with. So I was wondering if for example, if the New York law compels that at all, or if, any other bills have looked at it.
Yeah, there's definitely approaches that look at it. Although, I would say this is a complex problem, right? Like nothing lasts, everything is made to be disposed. There's a huge incentive for that to continue. And then, basically the, historical check on that was like, oh, products were actually expensive to make and they had warranties. So people would make them durable so that they wouldn't lose their shirt on the warranty process. But now, like Fitbit, Google, just like, hey, we'll just print another phone or, watch out, we have 90% margins on these things. So that's a part of the process. I mean, I think the way that I conceive of this is that there's many things that have to change. Manufacturers have to change the way that they manufacture things, and consumers need to change the way that they respond to things. And we need an ecosystem of repair and reuse. And the first thing that needs to change is consumers need to expect products to be fixable and to be able to be fixed. And once they've gained that expectation, manufacturers will have to respond. Like then you'll get the watch and it will break and you'll be like, I'm not buying that again. It's like, going through these products with my dad, who grew up when everything was fixed and everybody fixed their own stuff. He has an expectation that things will be fixed. And now he knows how to ask the right questions when he goes to buy an appliance to make sure that that thing is fixable, because that's the way things are supposed to be. That kind of consumer awareness can change companies' behavior quickly. And that's why in like France, they're having repair scores, which actually includes stocking spare parts as part of the criteria. And so if you buy a piece of electronics and from certain categories, like lawnmowers and cell phones and laptops and televisions, you'll be able to see like a score from 0 to 10. It's like an Energy Star rating, but for how repairable it is. And consumers are buying stuff with better repair scores. They're going away from their favorite brands into other brands that have higher repair scores. And usually that repair score generally reflects how well the thing is engineered, right? And so that's a reform that we would love to see. And actually, Heather's on, but that was one of the bills in Washington that was under consideration. We hope repair labeling is something that we can make more popular. I think it's like a whole systems approach that we need to actually fix the problem. And you're right, this one right to repair bills, these are not the panacea to change our like relationship with consumption and stuff. But I think it's a really important part of the solution.
Right on, thank you.
Thank you. Dadla, thanks for raising your hand.
Hey, you guys, this is so great. Two things specifically. My city just passed an electrification ordinance in Encinitas, California. And so all new buildings, they won't have gas coming in. So we're gonna have a lot of gas furnaces and stoves and ovens in these homes. And that's another piece of the repair parts replacement puzzle. Most of these things are gonna wind up in the landfill, unfortunately, but I'm trying to actually retrofit our beautiful Viking range to make it all electric, which is not easy because the parts are not, the manufacturers don't like to supply these parts. So HVAC and oven range manufacturers are one area that would really help to have repair capability for electrification purpose. And the other thing is I want people to know that C2C certification, cradle to cradle certification that was started by Bill McDonough, one of my heroes. I want to make sure whenever you buy anything, to ask them to join c2c.org and see if they can qualify under one of their tiers of, their various levels you can become cradle to cradle certified. And a lot of companies have done this, and this also helps the cause. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Maggie? Maggie Clark?
Thank you. There was some great data and pie charts shown earlier. I forgot who put up which one, but I think that reuse was pegged at only 3% of discards, and I think textiles might have been 6%. I may have that a little bit wrong, but I've always been hanging my hat on a pie chart that EPA did year after year. They would do a pair of pie charts. One was recyclables and organics, and the other had, instead of recyclables, it was 3 categories. Containers and packaging was one, durable goods was another, and non-durables was another. And I always considered the durables to be those things that could possibly be repaired. And that the durables number was usually around 19 or 20%. So I'm a bit quizzical about where these other numbers came from. Since I would think we'd be wanting to look at all of the durables.
Okay, Maggie. Laura, I think this is for you. And your charts were really beautiful and very easily, like with the visuals. Do you want to explain a little bit about your processes around that and the information
Well,
you gathered?
this is a waste characterization study from the city of San Diego. So all of the data that we collected was from the Cal Recycles page, not EPA, because everyone in California has to submit the data. So that's why it's readily available in that sense. They did not sort it in the ways, Maggie, you were talking about, but but I can break it down a little bit further, what they say, what reuse is compared to what textile, what the information, is that the kind of thing you're looking for?
Well, and I think appliances and electronics are in a different category. And
right.
So there's reusables that, yeah.
I mean, I consider reusables or durable products to be furniture, appliances, electronics, and appliances big and small, textiles, clothing, books.
Right. Right. I think with the 12 categories that we use from Dan Knapp, Dr. Dan Knapp, I believe that the electronics, if they're usable, of course, they're in the reuse area. I mean, Dan, I don't know if you can help me if I'm wrong, where we would put a lot of it's panning, once you separate it from their materials, of course, they're in their section, they're 12 categories, but I'm not exactly sure.
What I'm most concerned about is the total, because if we're trying to tell New York, hey, there's a really reasonable amount of reusable material left at the curbside, I want to know, is it 3% or is it 19%?
So that might be New York doing, I'm not sure when New York did their last waste characterization study and what their
Well, but
categories were.
But this is the thing about that. Since the Manhattan Solid Waste Advisory Board was formed in 1989, we've been asking them to do all the categories of reuse, all the ones that I just mentioned. And they just flat out refuse. They do a few of them, but they're not, even as recently as last summer when they came in to talk about, we have another one coming up. And we said, couldn't you do it this time? No. And they don't really say why. They just don't seem to care.
Maggie, keep in mind that this is materials that are going to the landfill or incinerators, right? And so possibly the city of San Diego is already diverting through reuse, repair, recycling, and otherwise those categories that you consider to be durable. Appliances are not allowed to be landfilled in California, so you won't see them in the discard pile. They will not be in the loads going to the landfill. So that would be an example. So what Laura showed was not a generation pie, but a landfill disposal pie, what's going to the landfill. And so I think it is probably representative in the city of San Diego that they are not sending a lot of electronics. I believe there's a e-waste bill in California. Others know more about them than we do. So we do not see a lot of electronics going to the landfill or a lot of appliances going to the landfill. We do see a lot of textiles.
Okay, so it might actually be closer to that old EPA figure for us.
And Sean also referenced a study done by Jamie Bacciola, I probably butchered that, about a pie chart of the reusables as is. So that might be.
Yeah, you can find her at Furniture Cycle. I forget if it's .org, .com, but Furniture Cycle.
Okay, thank you, Maggie, for bringing that up. And, it's the geographic diversity around us too. Peter had his
So I've
hand
been
up.
listening to a lot of this stuff, and so I wanted to, look, any of you who want to deploy repair in your communities, I'm going to put my email address in the chat, and you're welcome to email me directly. A lot of it's on the website already. We have all this stuff about waivers and stuff. We have shovel-ready stuff ready for anybody who wants to start to do this in person. That said, a couple of things I want to push back on. One of them was this, I don't, the fix-it coaches need to repair, in my opinion, need to remain as volunteers because it creates this moral hazard. And I'm also trying to set up a situation where it's a contradiction to us in civilization that we have to pay for everything. So I want to be able to give people this idea that they can actually have altruistic neighbors help them for free. And so that, sometimes I think I started Fix-It Clinic just so I could get myself a bunch of good friends. I mean, the Fix-It coaches are just amazing people. But that said, that's the hardest part, is finding that initial core Fix-It coaches. That said, I've created this global resource called the Global Fixers Server during the pandemic, and you can have now access to repairers from around the world in your community. So, I mean, the Belgians are great at electronics. Who knew? And so I offer that to use that as a resource, and that you don't have to fix the things at that actual event. That the idea is to deploy ubiquitous repair in your communities at this point. And we've expanded to repairing our shared community assets and public property, so that, if anything, if the school system has something broken, if the library has something broken, we're happy to fix it for them. Just because we have the capability now, the capacity to do that. So email me and I'll answer all your questions about how to move forward on this.
Wonderful, thank you. And I think that it is a really nice community building tool to get to know your neighbors, to get to know other people in your area, just to interact with other humans, as COVID is slowly, very slowly evolving, that we can go outside and that we can talk to other humans and interact in that kind of a way, and volunteer, because I agree that with the monetary exchange, then it becomes like a job, not just like a fun thing that you show up to and like get to help out. And I wanted to ask Casey and everyone to, all the speakers to add your information as well, in terms of, if people had follow-up questions or how to get started or whatnot. And I had some information for CRA that I'll also post if you wanted to either know about the organization, about the technical councils, or the conference that is super fun and it's coming up in September. All right, Charlene, you are next.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm greeting you from Johannesburg, South Africa. It's 10:30 here at night, so yeah, it was a great opportunity to learn from you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's very cold here. I see you all are dressed in your cool clothes, but I'm doing a doctorate degree on prevention of waste. And I'm searching high and low for people to talk to. And that's how I ended up at this forum. So if it is okay, I would love to put my details in the chat. And then if you want to talk to me, I would so appreciate any input on prevention of waste.
Well, and we're going to have a lot of other events as well, and participate in the conference. All right. We have just a few minutes left. Any other last burning desires for our speakers? All right, well, I think that's it. Let's make sure our speakers get their contact information in there too. Thank you for joining us and for participating, and we will see you at the next one. I think that might be it.
Thanks, Annette. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for coming.